So first of all, you're going to need a fork, you're going to need some yarn, and you're going to need some scissors. Let's go. First things first, we're going to cut about 60 centimeters of yarn out, which is about that. It might not be 60 centimeters, but you know, about this much. So we're going to put that to the side, and that's what we're going to use to tie off the pom-pom. Next, we're going to get your fork, you're going to get the end piece of your yarn, and you're just going to make a quick loop in that middle spoke, so it looks like that. And then you can hold it down at the back, which means your yarn isn't going anywhere while you start wrapping. And then we're going to start wrapping. And not like rapping because I'm no rapper, but I know how to rap, if you know what I mean. Yeah, lame joke day. So we're going to wrap about 30 times, maybe a little bit more, until it gets to a nice thickness that you are happy with. I'm going to keep going over the same part so it gets nice and thick. Actually, that's probably way more than 30. It's probably like 50. But, you know, until you're happy. Now, I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to kind of squish that together because we need it to be quite condensed. So I'm just going to cut this off and then leave that there. Now, we're going to use this yarn to loop through this middle spoke and the one underneath, and then we can tie a knot in it. So in order to get to that bottom one, we're going to kind of shimmy this up without it going off the edge. If it goes off the edge, it'd be difficult to get it back on again. So then you want to kind of loop, push it through to the other side like this. Oh, run away fork. Push it through to the other side and then straight down the middle. And then we're going to tie a little knot. Nice and tight. And as you can see, we've got this nice bow shape going on. Now once you've got that tied on, you can pull it off the fork and then you can tie it really tight. And this is why we're doubling up, because we need it to be really, really tight. And trying to pull this hard on a single yarn, it will most likely break. So pull really nice and tight and then you double knot it. So then you've got something that is quite secure, like this. It's like a little yarn button. Huh. Okay, so your next step is to trim off that bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut all the way around the edge of all these loops, and that will start giving us our pom-pom shape. Now, ideally, you want to use thinner scissors, something that's like long and pointy and very sharp, and it would definitely make this easier. If it doesn't look easy right now, it's because I have misplaced my embroidery scissors. So I have to use these ones because these are pretty sharp because they're new. So you might just end up having to force your way in, but that's fine as long as you keep your fingers in the center, and then you won't be losing anything. Sometimes you'll cut through a top loop and there'll be another one underneath, so just make sure you get them all. Gotta get them all. And then you just keep doing that until you get to the end. Okay, so we're just getting to the end here. Just a little check for any extra loops. Look, there's a secret one there. Sneaky loop on that side. We're okay. Oh no, look, we've got 2 more here. Yep, give you a cut. What about you? You a loop? Cut them through the loops. Okay, so what we have here is something that resembles a pom-pom, but it's not quite up to pom-pom status yet. So you can start fluffing it out make it nice and fluffy. But as you can see, it is in great need of a haircut. So let's give it one. So now what you want to do is just trim the edges and just kind of trim it into the shape that you want, which is round. But don't trim too much. If you trim too much, then it will look really uneven and it won't look as fluffy. But then if you're going for like a dense pom-pom, then it doesn't need to be fluffy. So it really is your preference. Now I like my one to have the look of denseness, but also to be quite fluffy. So I just make sure that they're all even. And this is when the perfectionist in me pops out, because I'm like, can't quite let it slide if there's one that looks a little longer than the other. So I apologize if this part of the video is like really long while I sit here like measuring pieces of fluff. Now if you need to tie it onto something, you can keep that on there, but I don't. So what I'm gonna do is snip that off and move the rubbish out of the way. Just give it a little roll around in the hand. And there you have one cute little pom-pom made of a fork. Okay, so for this version of pom-pom making, this is even easier than the fork because all you need is scissors, yarn, and your hands. So, like we did with the fork, we are going to cut a little double length of yarn, put that to the side, and then we're going to get either 2, 3 or 4 fingers depending on how large you want your pom-pom to be. I'm going to go with 2 fingers because I kind of still want it to be small. And then we are going to, well, first of all, you're going to wrap once and hold that excess down with your thumb. But then you're going to just continue to wrap, 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 wrap. You're going to keep wrapping until you get the thickness that you want. So let's do that. Now this one's really easy, so even if you don't have like a fork, which, you know, I guess is unfortunate, but if you don't have a fork, then you can just use your fingers. Oh, okay, so I'm quite happy with that thickness, and if you look at the side, my fingers are well and truly bound to each other. So what we're going to do now is get your double piece. I'm going to just kind of twist that, and then I'm going to kind of poke it through as much as I can to the other side, in between my fingers. And then with that, I'm going to poke that through my fingers there. So then you have something that looks like that. Now, because I'm not very good at tying knots with one hand, I'm going to just kind of push this off my fingers very carefully so that the holes remain like this. And then you can really tie a good knot in the center. So just be slow so you don't miss anything. And then pull, 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 pull. So then you've got that. Now this one's a little bit bigger than the one that we made before, so I'm just going to double up on the other side to make sure this is properly secure. Just get that right in there. Double knot that. Yeah, and then you have something that looks like this. Now we've got a few stray loops, but it's okay because when we start cutting it won't matter anyway. And then, like we did before, let's start cutting out those loops. Now this one should be a little bit easier for you because your fingers are larger. Ooh, your fingers are larger than the spokes of a fork, so the little loops will be larger, which means you should be able to get a pair of scissor blades in there, no problem. As you can see, much quicker work than the last one. Although it can still be a little bit tight depending on how tightly wrapped your fingers were. As you can see here, it's going quite quickly. So I'm just cutting these little extra loops. I'm not missing anything. Am I missing anything else? No, I think we're okay. So there is, again, the beginnings of a fine pom-pom. And let's give it another haircut. So, see, this one's a little bit more crazy looking than the last, so I might have to trim quite a bit more off to get the shape that I'm looking for. But it really does help to kind of spin around as you're going, so you can see the shape. Give it a little fluff as you're going along to bring up all the loose ones. Snip them off. Snip the end bits. Move that to the side. Give it a little roll in your hand to make it round again. And there we have a pom-pom you made with your fingers. So now that you know how to make a pom-pom with your hands and how to make a pom-pom with a fork, I'm going to teach you how to make multiple pom-poms at the same time. And I'm also, while I'm going to do that, show you how to make multiple colours of pom-poms at the same time. So, what you will need is some yarn, and we're going to use this pink and this green. You'll need a pair of scissors, which are just over here. And you're also going to need either some like table legs, still attached to a table of course, maybe an upside down chair, or like I'm using today, my copper pipe ladder, which I will link in the description below so you can watch how I make this. Shameless plug. So, you need something that has two legs or spokes that are just kind of sticking up that are fairly far apart. So you can use like banister, you know, two pieces of wood if you can get them steady somewhere, anything. You know, you can do it in your garden if you have like a gate, you can do it across the two front bits. If you're feeling creative outside, you can do anything. Just as long as you're able to wrap something around easily, you should be fine. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use one colour and then I'm going to switch out to the other colour so that when we make the pom-pom, it has one colour on the outside and then the inside it will have a ring of another colour. So I think we will have the outside colour as green with a pink inside. So we're going to start with the pink first. So what you need to do is get this sturdy so that it doesn't go anywhere. So the first thing you want to do is tie it round once and then just tie it to itself. And this way it will stay nice and sturdy on your frame. Like that. Then I'm going to pop this on the floor so it's easier for it to unravel. But then all you want to do is just wrap around 20 to 30 times, just like you would with your fingers or with a fork, and just keep going. Now this can be quite tedious to watch, so I'm just going to speed this bit up a bit and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay, so I've got a nice block of colour here. I think that's about as much as I want of the pink. what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut about center. Pick up our yarn. Ooh, keep that to the side. And then we're going to pick up our green colour, our secondary colour, and we're going to tie the two ends together. And then we're going to carry on wrapping. Now, there we go. So what we're going to do now, because we want this to be in the centre, we need to completely cover this colour with this colour. And then that way when we start making our pom-poms, you'll see it will come up as a little circle bit in the middle. So let's pop that on the floor and fast forward again. Okay, so I would say that pink completely covered now. So what we're going to do, cut again in the middle, pick up your yarn, put that on the table, so we're going to cut again, and just instead of leaving this, we're going to try and find that tie. There we go. We've got a little tie here, and we can just tie those together for the moment to secure them so that we can let go without this unraveling. We'll snip it off at the end, I promise. Okay. On to the next part. So our next part, we need to get some ties, and that's what we're going to do to tie off our areas. And I think with that we could probably get about 8 pom-poms out of that. So I need to cut about this much 8 times. So I'm going to use both colours together because then it will match the colours that we're using. But again, if you want to use contrast colours to tie them off, you can, but just note that you might be able to see it in the middle of your pom-pom. Okay, so we've got 8 pieces. We don't need that anymore, so we'll just put that definitely to the side. Let's bring this back. Nice and secure. Okay, so using our ties, we are now going to place them in equal distance or as equal as you can get to each other. So I'm going to pop them like this. Okay, that seems about right. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to tie these really, really tight. Very, very tight. Just as tight as you would with any of your other pom-poms, because we're going to make 8 of them. And then we're going to cut straight down the middle, and there you go, all your pom-poms in a row. So let's do this. I'm going to speed this up again because this can take a little while. Okay, so we've got to our very last one, just making sure it's a little bit even. I'm going to double knot that. So after this, what we need to do is first of all marvel at how pretty it looks. Doesn't it look nice? And then after that, we get our scissors and we are going to cut down the centre of each of these bunches, and that's what's going to give us our pom-poms. Now once you cut one side, obviously there'll be the other side, so find a side that's comfortable. I'm going to start with this side and then pull around. So straight down the middle. And as you can see, this is what your pom-pom is going to look like. And isn't it cute? Woo! Okay, so securing, pulling nice and tight. Carry on cutting. Okay, when you get to these two ends, you just want to take it off and then just cut straight through the loop. And it might be a bit one-sided, so then all you need to do is just pull it through until it's even on both sides. Do the same with this side. Slide Okay, so on to the next step. You should have all of your little mini pom-poms there. I did have this one, but I pulled too hard and I pulled it apart. So note to yourself, don't pull too hard. Didn't know my own strength. So what we need to do now is basically we're gonna fluff. And if you're quite happy with the way these pom-poms look, you can go with that. But I like mine to be quite round and dense looking. So what we're gonna do is give these a little trim. There we go. And then trim off the bottom. So I'm gonna give that a little mini trim there. Oh, and you. And you, oh god. I'm gonna round it off so it's all round and you don't see where that little bit was. So move this out of the way. And there you have a little pom-pom. So all you need to do now is do that for your other 7 and you've just made a whole bunch of pom-poms in half the time. So let me go away and come back and do that and then you can see what I've done.
As you can see, I've got a little bit carried away with my pom-pom making, but it was so much fun, so I suggest you get making as soon as possible.
So now that you know how to make pom-poms 3 ways, with your hands, with a full multiple pom-poms, with anything with 2 legs, the next question you should really be asking yourself is, what am I going to make with the ton of pom-poms that I have now? Well, I have a few answers for you, but for that, you're going to have to check for my next video. So until then, me and my pom-poms say bye!
Stay tuned for more pom-pom videos, and if you want to see more, check out thecrafterpreneur.com. Bye!